So I asked ChatGPT to give me some of the most brutal roasts it could about vegans and veganism. And they were pretty brutal. You've read like 2 or 3 of them, right?
Yep, toasty.
I'm joined by fellow vegan and YouTuber Lawrence Anton. And today we're going to get roasted by ChatGPT. Vegans act like they're the moral high ground. But how many of you lot are secretly hoping your meat-eating friends die young so you can say, I told you so, at the funeral? This is like that vegans think they're so superior type of thing. You know, let's be honest, some vegans definitely say things like that, unfortunately. It's not great. But the vast majority of vegans are not. They're not hoping you're going to die.
Yeah, exactly. Like, people have got to remember, like in the modern social media age, we box people into things and we say, you're a vegan, this is what you are, this is the only label you have. But it's like, someone is a vegan and a normal person, and they have a family and friends and stuff like this. Most vegans, it's like, they're just normal people. They still care about humans. They just have gained this sort of, like more engaged care for animals as well. Yeah, awareness. Yeah.
So you're vegan because you love animals? Weird, because every vegan I've met makes me want to strangle a kitten just to balance things out.
That's like ChatGPT's equivalent of, oh, you're vegan, I'm going to eat 2 steaks tonight.
Basically, yeah. It's like saying, like, you're so annoying, you've annoyed me so much that I actually feel like I need to go and strangle a kitten to balance out your good deeds. Like you said, eat 2 steaks because you're not eating any or whatever. Vegans can be annoying, so annoying they make me want to oppose them and go and do the thing they're trying to like convince me not to do. Even though I understand it, I see where you're coming from, that you're so annoyed that you want to just rebel. It's okay in the case, like, say if your parents are like, hey, clean your room, and you're annoyed by it, so you trash your room. I get that, that's fine, and it's the same vibe, it's the same feeling. But the good thing about when you trash your room is the only victim is you. Victim is when they see your room, you know, if you're young enough to still live with your parents or they still living with them and you're older, but they care about your room for some reason, like they'll come after you and you'll suffer. That's all that's going to happen. And they're not going to really suffer from it, but you will. Whereas in the case of like, oh, I'm going to go and strangle a kitten or eat steak because you have annoyed me, it's not really fair, because it's like punishing the vegan. Sorry, punishing the animals because you were upset by the vegan. But the animals didn't do anything.
Exactly. It's like you're getting annoyed by someone, and as a result, you're going to hurt someone else who's completely unrelated to this person.
Which is a real shame. So if you're going to take it out on anyone, take it out on the vegan. Verbally, like, oh, you've really pissed me off now. Like, have it out. Like, we're open to this. If you want to tell us, like, if someone wants to tell me, like, you've really annoyed me and I want to talk to you about it, I want to tell you how I feel. I mean, I'm interested in what you've got to say, actually. Like, let's talk about it and let's hash it out rather than doing drastic actions like that. We're all humans. Just talk to each other. We can figure it out.
Yeah, and I think if you put it in like if you give like another example, people will see how ridiculous it is to take it out on the animals, in terms of like, we've all been approached by like people shaking a bucket on the street, right? It's not appropriate to then go, right, you're advocating for, you know, I don't know, I was going to say people in wheelchairs, but I feel like that wouldn't be the best example. But like,
so I'm going to go on,
you know, blind people. So like, look, that guy's using a stick. Let's go get him.
Let's go beat him up a little bit because this blind people's charity annoyed me. Yeah, it's a pretty intense way of going about it, and I would hope that people would, you know, not do that. All right, I want to take a quick moment to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Plants Against Veganity. Imagine Cards Against Humanity, but vegan style, where all the cards have hilarious vegan themes. I don't know about you, but this is my favorite thing to do at a party. I think we're all sick of seeing this. The #1 argument against veganism, of course. I think vegan cheese is tasting better these days, come on. I've played this a couple of times with my groups of friends and we really enjoyed it. It's got some really dark humor in there as well as some lighter stuff, so there's something in there for everybody. If you're interested in picking one of these sets up, you can get 10% off by putting the code RAMS in when you go to the checkout. Alternatively, you could just click the link down in the description and it'll take you right there and put that code in automatically for you. They ship this anywhere in the world apart from North Korea, which I guess is fair enough. When you support Plants Against Veganity, you're supporting a vegan company and you're supporting me, my channel, and my work, as Plants Against Veganity is sponsoring this video and making this possible. So thanks Plants Against Veganity for sponsoring the video, and thank you for supporting vegan companies. Now back to the video. You say going vegan is easy, but it feels like every time I eat a salad, I'm 2 bites away from a personality disorder. How do you do it without losing your soul to chickpeas? A lot of people, when they go vegan, their entire personality changes. They become a different person. They become a different person with their friends and their families. And actually, usually, they come out a little time after this.
Exactly, yeah.
And come back
a bit
to
more
who
wiser,
they were again.
Yeah,
back to who they were again. And the reason for this, the reason that people make this big change and everyone goes, whoa, what the hell, what happened to them? And is because they suddenly get this influx of information that they had no idea about before, about animals and about the way of the world and how we don't need to eat meat for health or drink milk for calcium or whatever. And they feel lied to. And when someone finds out this new information, it's like finding the Indiana Jones, what's it called?
Holy Grail?
The Holy Grail. Yeah. They feel like everyone should know. And they want to tell all their friends and family. And then when their friends and family tell them to sod off, they get upset. And then all of a sudden, this person who never really gets upset about much and is pretty chill most of the time is now getting really riled up and in your face. Yeah. And it can cause a lot of problems. And I get it. I get it on both sides. I get why the vegan, I'm so happy the vegan tries to speak up. But I also understand the frustration of everybody else who's like, what the hell happened to Lawrence? Now he's just shouting at me all the time. But, you know, it does tend to, like you said, come out the other side wiser. I don't mean that they stop talking about veganism. I mean, they figure out that usually the best ways to talk about these things don't involve getting in people's faces and shouting at them. I mean, especially in your close circle of people.
From the outside, it can look very culty.
Right.
And I agree, there can be culty elements. Like both me and you have been critical of some of those elements, but like often it will be people just trying to bond with each other on something they care a lot about.
Right.
And it's just not relatable to the average person because they haven't got to that issue yet.
Totally. How come vegans always say they don't miss meat, but then you see them eating plant-based ribs, burgers, and sausages? It's like breaking up with someone and dating their twin.
That's funny. Until it got to that last bit, I was like, how's this going to turn into a roast?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
That's a good one. It's a good one. And it is like breaking up with someone and dating their twin, except, right?
Their twin doesn't feel pain.
A better analogy would be, it's like a gangster who's been like doing gangster stuff for a long time, beating people up, killing people for money, all this kind of stuff. And then they quit and then they start playing Grand Theft Auto.
I knew you were going to use that example.
On PlayStation instead. It's like breaking up with someone who's really, really like mean and violent and abusive and dating the really kind twin who's super nice and is making big efforts to not hurt anyone. Yeah. So it's like dating a better twin.
Yeah. So like when I first became, well actually basically like since she still says it, my grandma always says like, oh, the one thing I don't get about vegans is like, if they've stopped eating animals, why are they eating like burgers, sausages, burgers, stuff like that? And the simple thing I say to her is like, I didn't stop eating them because I didn't like sausages, burgers and stuff specifically and like how they taste and stuff. It's just because I disagreed where they come from, basically.
Right, exactly.
And if you can simulate it and without that stuff you disagree with, then like what's the issue?
Exactly, that's it, exactly. Veganism is about compassion, great. I'm sure that animals really appreciate your compassion when they're being hit by a tractor harvesting your soybeans.
Okay. So it's the old, vegans are still harming animals and it's not saying grandstanding, but this is a thing that goes along with it, right?
Yeah, more it's saying, oh, we think we're so moral, but even our food has death. And a lot of people say this to vegans. Yeah. If you think vegans are claiming to be these all perfect people that have figured out the cheat code to living this perfect life for animals, then you'll bring that up because you'll say, hey, wait a minute, step down from your pedestal. Your life still hurts animals too. And some vegans give the wrong impression of that. They say things like, there's no cruelty on my plate and no one died for my meals. Cruelty free. Yeah. No one died for my meals and things like that. And that's what gives people the impression that vegans think that there is no death involved in their life. But it's wrong. The veganism doesn't eradicate all harm and death to animals. It's not possible to get rid of all the harm and death to animals. Literally impossible. But it is a significant improvement. Being a vegan is a big improvement on not being a vegan.
I think everyone recognizes there is a difference between intentionally like paying for someone to die,
right,
and then like something unintentionally being the fact because the world we live in is imperfect, right? Like
it would be like To put it into an analogy, I'm trying to think of an analogy outside of food that would make it simple.
We all drive cars and recognise that a certain amount of people are going to get hit by that. That's very unfortunate, and we don't want that to happen. We want to avoid it. Yeah. But we all drive cars. Just because some people will get hit by cars every year doesn't mean we can intentionally run someone over.
Yes, exactly. Or I suppose if you had an army, imagine you were a country that had an army. If there's some kind of conflict, you would acknowledge that, there probably is going to be some casualties that are from people not involved in the combat. But that then doesn't mean that you would go out and purposefully kill people not involved in the combat, just because there's it's inevitably going to affect other people. Yeah. And that's when it comes to veganism and the choices we make. We know our choices are still going to impact animals, but that's a stark difference from literally paying for people to go and impact animals directly.
Yeah, and then doing the best you can, but in an imperfect world.
Well, yeah, you can grow plants without harming animals, right? You can drive a car without harming animals. Yeah. There are ways, and there will be technology that advances to make these things possible, but you cannot farm and kill animals without harming animals. Yeah, true, it is impossible. Yeah. So if you're going to eat meat, dairy, eggs from animals, not lab-based obviously, because lab-based doesn't harm animals, but like meat, dairy, eggs, leather, fur, all these products that come from animals, that system can never improve enough. It's not possible for it to ever get to a point where it doesn't hurt animals. It's always going to be violent to them. It's always violence to them. Whereas, plant-based agriculture can be done without that.
Yeah, exactly.
Should be done without that. Isn't always, as ChatGPT said with the harvester.
Reminds us,
but that's because the people that do it are not vegan. And they're not using the technology, or the technology's not there yet, but it will be there when we demand it. That's the important part. We are demanding it. This is a good one. I get it. Vegans love animals. But don't you ever think maybe animals don't love you? Like, have you ever tried to hug a lion? Yeah, it'd eat you. But sure, go ahead. Save it. So this one, I found this one to basically just be, why care about animals if they don't care about you or would eat you? And I've actually heard this. This might seem silly, but it's a pretty common one. People say they say, well, why should I care about others that don't care about me and that would hurt me? I actually would. They're not even on my radar of care of why I should change my life. I've heard that one before. Have you heard that one before?
Yeah.
We're all selfish, right? On some level, and that's not in a negative way. I think being a selfish species that looks out for our own humans makes some sense for survival and surviving in a dog eat dog world, So I get it. And if there's some animals that would never repay the favor to you, like if you were suffering, they would eat you. Why should I stop them from suffering? Why should I change my life for them? But I think the difference here, and it's really, really important, is that we as humans have a responsibility to be better than that primal instinct of. So a lion doesn't think like that. They can't think like that. So they would eat you alive, for sure. But if you saw a lion dying of starvation or dehydration or whatever it was, or maybe some human was abusing them. Let's use that as a good example. So a human was abusing a lion. You would step in, because even though a lion would kill you in a heartbeat, you have this higher level of thinking and morals and understanding of the world, so that you can say, hey, look, I know you would kill me in a heartbeat, but I still don't think it's right that someone abuses you. We apply this to some of the world's worst people, serial killers, and even though a serial killer probably deserves to be abused in prison, I think most people around the world would say, hey, no, the government should not be abusing people in prison.
Lock them up and that's enough.
Lock them up, but you can't torture them. That's not a good use of our power. We need to be more responsible with government power. And that's the same as humans. We should be more responsible with our power and not just be like, chicken, if you were bigger, you would just kill me. So therefore I'll kill you. That's not a very reasonable way of looking at things, to be honest. It's a sad way of looking at things. I think we can be better.
It's even worse when like people say that about animals, because it's like with animals, there's no malevolence. Like they don't know what they do, right? Obviously, they know what they do, but not in the way that is morally relevant.
No, they don't understand that hurting you makes you feel pain, and that's a reason to stop, because you deserve to not be in pain. But we do get that. We look at a chicken and we say, hey, if you were 100 times bigger, you'd probably kill me, and you wouldn't think twice about it. But I have the ability to think twice about it. That's a powerful ability I have. That gives me a lot of strength and a lot of responsibility. So I'm going to use that to save you, even though you would never save me. I think that's really that's a really nice way of seeing the world. Not just nice; it's essential. Really, it's the only way that we can ever come to a world where we have some level of peace, is if we approach things in that way. You're telling me a cow's life matters more than a human's? I mean, we've got serial killers walking free, and vegans are out here holding candlelight vigils for chickens. It's not wrong. Some vegans do in fact hold candlelight vigils for chickens.
Yeah.
And when you put it in that context, I guess I can see why people might find that a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I've never done a candlelit one, but like I've done vigils before, and I can understand the average person walking past looking at that is going to think, mental. What are these people? Yeah, exactly. What are these people on? Like,
the good thing about this is that you can be both opposed to serial killers. You can be like, yeah, we need to stop serial killers. That is 100% true. You can also care about chickens. I get that you can't connect with a chicken. They're like little dinosaurs. It's difficult to connect with a reptilian-minded bird. I get it. They don't really have much that's similar to their beaks and feathers, but they still feel pain, and they still suffer, and still have personalities. They still have love and affection, and it's still worth considering them and thinking like, okay, how can we make the world a better place for them?
Yeah.
There's no reason not to care about them. I mean, they've not done anything.
Yeah, but the thing is like the average person actually does care about chickens, even if they don't realize it, because if they were to come across someone who is harming a chicken, they would instinctively try and get that person away from the chicken, right? Or people do make these gestures towards like, oh yeah, you know, even if they're not vegan and they say like, you know, I do eat chicken, they at least gesture at like, I think they should be treated well. So usually, that shows that they at least have some level of care.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just following through and turning that into action, basically.
You say going vegan is saving animals, but if that's true, how come every vegan I've met makes me want to kill myself?
That's funny.
Oh man, it's brilliant. It is just the case that, look, some vegans can be a lot, and they're a lot of vegans are a lot because of the world being the way it is. And I get why people get annoyed by it. I get it. I totally get it. If I wasn't a vegan, I would be really annoyed by vegans, because, you know, some of them especially, because some can be really annoying, and especially if you don't want to hear it because you don't want to change. Yeah. I totally understand, but you know, most vegans mean well, and they're trying to save animals, as ChatGPT said. They're trying to make a better world for animals. So if you feel annoyed by a vegan, just try and be empathetic a little bit, maybe. Maybe try to understand where they're coming from a little bit. Like, okay, you might not agree with them, but they're devoting their life right now to talking to you because they care about animals.
Yeah.
And they see what's happening to animals, the farming, the situation, the slaughterhouses, the just mass violence towards them. And it hurts them and it bothers them, and they think it's wrong, because it is wrong. And they're trying to reach out to you about it. You might not like it, just try and be empathetic.
Yeah.
Try and be compassionate to them.
What I would do is, like, if you come across someone who's preaching a specific message that you find the person irritating, then sure, don't interact with the person. See the message they've got, find someone else who promotes the same message, and try and learn from them. Like, I do that on a range of issues. Like, there will be a range of people I'll find very annoying, but I want to learn about a subject. I'll just go to... Every subject has multiple people talking about it.
Right.
You don't have to just go to that one person.
Totally.
So it's like,
Totally, yeah. If you enjoyed seeing us get roasted by ChatGPT, let us know down in the comments. Thank you, Lawrence, for joining us.
Cheers.
And if you want to help me with my vegan and animal rights work, check out the David Ram's Patreon and YouTube teams in the description.